The cracked ceiling. When Mark moved into his new apartment, the place seemed perfect, affordable, quiet, and conveniently located. But there was one strange detail, a small crack in the ceiling of his bedroom. The landlord had assured him it was nothing, just an old building settling, and Mark didn't think much of it. The first few nights were peaceful, but soon, Mark began noticing strange things. At night, when he lay in bed, he could hear faint tapping sounds coming from the ceiling, as if something was moving above him. He dismissed it as the pipes or perhaps a rodent in the attic. But each night, the tapping grew louder and more distinct, almost like footsteps. One evening, Mark decided to investigate. He climbed up to the attic, only to find it empty and covered in dust. The noises continued, though, and as the days passed, the crack in the ceiling began to grow. Mark tried patching it up, but no matter what he did, it always seemed to reopen, larger than before. One night, the tapping turned into a slow, rhythmic knocking, directly above his bed. Mark's heart pounded in his chest as he stared up at the crack, which now spanned almost the entire length of the ceiling. He could swear he saw something moving in the shadows, something shifting behind the plaster. Unable to sleep, Mark called the landlord the next morning, demanding an explanation. The landlord hesitated before finally revealing a disturbing truth. That apartment, it's had problems before. The previous tenant complained about the same noises, the same crack in the ceiling. We thought it was just the building settling, but she disappeared. No one knows what happened to her. One day, she was just gone. Terrified, Mark decided he couldn't stay any longer. That night, as he packed his bags, the knocking started again, louder than ever. The crack in the ceiling split open, and something dark began to seep through, thick, shadowy tendrils slowly snaking their way down toward his bed. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly, and the shadows seemed to writhe with a malevolent presence. Mark grabbed his things and ran, slamming the door behind him. As he fled the apartment, he could hear the knocking follow him, echoing through the walls. He didn't stop until he was far from the building, never to return. The sight of the building shrinking in the distance was a relief. But even now, in his new place, he sometimes hears faint knocking above his bed at night. He'll glance at the ceiling and see dark shadows flitting past, just out of view. Each time, his heart races as he remembers the night he fled from the cracks in the ceiling and the terror that followed him out of that apartment. The unsettling feeling never leaves him, as if whatever was once trapped above his bed has found a way to follow him, lurking in the shadows of his new home.